Coach, hey, thanks for joining me today on this Simple Coach to Coach interview. I wanted to have the band out, the marching band to, play some tune as we were doing this to celebrate your national championship, but, they got other things to do today. But thank you for joining me. Thanks for taking the time. And, thanks for being on the channel.
Thank you for having me on. I'm super excited. I've seen a lot of these interviews, and watching Travis be on here last year when you reached out to me, I was like, yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to be on. So I appreciate everything that you do for Division III soccer, and looking forward to a fun little interview.
Thank you. He was sweating. That's how tough of an interview I was. I could see the perspiration coming down. I didn't give him any slack. Hey,
He's a lot more social than I am. He can talk for a while, so I'll try to see if I can match it.
I'm actually supposed to have him on, I think, on Friday. I'm doing an interview with him on Friday. I think it's Friday.
That's awesome.
Thursday,
He's just like you. He's one of the bigger Division III soccer junkies in the world out there.
He didn't kick me in the head, but I hold him personally responsible for getting kicked in the head at Ohio Wesleyan. So, hey, my first question is, I'm not sure where we go from here, right? Because, again, you're year one, and lo and behold, you raise a trophy. But maybe we could just start, how did you end up at St. Olaf? What's your soccer journey been like? You're at the pinnacle already, so
it's funny because it's such a loaded question, and it kind of just doubles down. I have this just belief that everything happens for a reason, and obviously there's always some low points and stuff. But it all started with my college journey. Honestly, I played 3 years of Division I soccer at a school called Eastern Illinois. We weren't the best. We didn't win very much. And I have a twin brother who's the head coach at another school in our conference and used to be the associate head coach at Gustavus, who was the rival in our conference, where they went to the Elite Eight 2 years ago. And essentially, he transferred to St. Thomas back when they were still in Division III when he was a junior, and I chose to stay at Eastern Illinois. And I watched him go to a Final Four, and my team went 5-9-2, and I was like, wow, that looks like a lot more fun than not winning a whole lot. So then I transferred to St. Thomas for just the spring of my junior year and my senior year, and in our 1 year we had a good season, and it was successful. We went 22-2, and we lost in the Elite Eight to North Park 1-0 on an own goal, where we did get absolutely dominated in the game for whatever that's worth. But that year we actually went to Ohio Wesleyan with our St. Thomas team, and we played against we went to OU, and Travis was the associate head coach there at the time, and we beat them 2-1. And me and my twin brother had a good game, and Tyler ended up going and being an assistant coach at Elmhurst for a year, and I tried to play after. I wasn't good enough. I went on trial with Louisville City for the start of preseason, and I was not at the level. And then from there, I was just looking to get into coaching. So I coached 1 year of high school varsity soccer at North St. Paul, which is where I played at, and it was awesome. And then Tyler went to Disney, and he ran into Travis there, and he was like, "Hey, I think I'm going to be the head coach at St. Olaf. What's your brother doing? Any interest there?" And so, coincidentally enough, it just goes from Tyler running to Travis at an event where Travis recognized Tyler and I from us going there and playing them. And I got coffee with him when he was here in Minnesota, and it was kind of a perfect match. So I went from 1 year of varsity coaching at 22 to being his assistant at 22, 23. And it was kind of the perfect match. And then, we were together for 4.5 years, and Travis, I do believe, is one of the best coaches in Division III soccer. He's been a great mentor. He's also one of my best friends. We probably talk 3 or 4 times a week. But then the next crazy part is, again, together for 4.5 years. This last spring, I kind of felt like I was ready to make the jump and be a head coach. I went out and I interviewed at some places that I got offered a job, didn't get offered a job when I was a finalist somewhere else. And then I did accept a job to be the head coach at University of Wisconsin Stout to start their program from scratch, and they weren't going to start playing until 2024. And that was this spring. And the reason I did that is because me and Travis were on the same page of he was planning on being here for the foreseeable future, because we didn't think that some of the jobs that were going to open up were going to open up that would be a place for him and his fiance to go long term.
Hmm.
But then, like, lo and behold, some big
Yeah.
jobs opened up in Kenya and Chicago, and then this year there's another big one in WashU. But essentially, Travis ended up going back to Kenya, and it was a great decision for him and his fiance Amber. But it kind of like afforded me the opportunity to potentially come back to St. Olaf. I'll leave some of the details out of it, but I left because I was planning on being somewhere for a while because he was going to be here for a while, and then
Hmm.
when he went back to Kenyan, it afforded me a unique opportunity to come back here. I got a phone call from the athletic director asking me if I would be interested in coming back, and
Hmm.
it was like a no brainer to me just because um, it was a place I was at for the last 4.5 years where again, I did a little bit. I helped Travis as like the engineer, the architect, whatever analogy you want to use, but I still helped a little bit and did some stuff. So when I got the opportunity to have my first head coaching job, be a team that had gone to back-to-back Sweet 16s and been ranked in the top 15 each of the last 2 years, and over the last 3 years had tied for the like fifth or sixth most wins in the country. It was just like it was a no-brainer. So it
Hmm.
sucked that for me to have the job that I wanted, my best friend outside of my twin brother had to leave, but it brought me back to St. Olaf, and I was pretty blessed to have the team this year.
Hmm. I actually said in the email exchange, like I mentioned, I'm supposed to interview him in Thursday or Friday, and I actually said to him, I was like, you, "There's no team that wins a national championship in a vacuum." And I said to him, I was like, it takes time to get to a spot. I'm like, so it's to, I look at it and I don't take this the wrong way, but like a lot of his work, right, went into what happened this year for you guys. And I think just because of the nature of the way soccer is. And I think it's the accumulation of all this work that went on beforehand as well. Not only your work, but from previous years and the recruiting and whatnot. So,
Yeah,
um,
with Travis, I'm pretty like self-aware of knowing what I do or don't contribute towards. And again, when I was here with him every step of the way, helping us go through a rebuild where he took over a team that was winning 4 and 5 games in 2017, 2018. So like again, like I helped him do it, but it's not lost on me that Travis is the main again architect engineer. He did build this, and I helped a little bit, but if there's somebody who deserves the most credit for us winning a national championship, I still do firmly believe that it is him.
mhm.
The thing that some of my people around me have done a good job of trying to help me feel better about is just that yes, he did build it, and yes, you helped, and they make sure to remind me of that. But I did have to coach like 100% of this season, which is
Yeah,
the
yeah,
true part for me to try to double
yeah,
down on. But
yeah,
I just can't begin to emphasize enough of like how much I still believe that this is the biggest part of what Travis
yeah,
assembled.
yeah,
And I did coach it, so that part is valid.
yeah.
But it was very special to have he came to our games
Oh,
in
that's awesome.
Chicago against both Eau Claire and U Chicago, and
Hmm.
then him and his family drove to the Final Four, and they were at both of those games as well. So having him there every step of the way was super
That's
super
awesome.
special.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm not saying I mean, you had to do the coaching this year, and you put in your work as well. I'm not dismissing that, but um, let me ask. Obviously, it's gone great, right? Like the transition from Travis to your leadership. How has that gone? Has it been pretty seamless because the guys already knew you? Is it, and obviously Saint Olaf.
Yeah, I would say I'm very honest with the guys in our team and in our program where I told them like one of my biggest worries or concerns heading into this year as a first time head coach, like there was big expectations for us from some people from the outside where, when you have the last 2 seasons that we did and we've done what we've been doing, there's always going to be a little bit of again expectations on us. So I told them like one of my biggest worries and concerns, you guys, is just that like I don't want to mess it all up. So I like, and I use different words for it, but
Yeah.
like, yeah, I just don't want to mess it up. And at the same point in time, like I still am a competitor, so like I backed myself to come in and do a good job, and I knew that I was ready for it. So it was interesting, but they also told me like, look, Justin, we're super thankful too because I got hired in late July.
Yeah.
So it was a good 3.5, 4 weeks before the season was going to start, and they were like, just as you're worried about not messing up, we're super happy that you're back here because you're familiar with all of us. You know our team. You've done a huge part of stuff over the last 4.5 years, so we don't have to have a new head coach try to come in and figure out the way that we want to play, our identities, what we do, see who's the best players for what spots. So it was like those calls were super nice because they shared a similar sentiment of like familiarity and just being ready to help do a lot. Travis was great in terms of he would give me a lot to do in some areas, and we were very complimentary of each other. So it was a pretty easy segue in, just because I mean I was as associate head coach the 2 years before,
Hmm.
so we worked very well in tandem. So it's just I think it was as easy of a transition as it possibly could have been. When we started off the year 1-4 or 1-3, I thought like, holy cow, I might be like butchering one of the most talented teams in the country. So at that point, I was having to have some thoughts like, am I just a terrible head coach? That part was funny.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you did right. Like you, your first four games. Holy smokes, right? You lose to Chicago, Ohio Wesleyan, and then Kenyon. Yeah, and you're 1-3. So I could see you being like, oh my gosh, what have I done? Right? That's um. l- Again, I'm gonna because this is a unique situation, right? Usually the coach leaves and then somebody comes in with their own style, but you have a legacy as well there. What's and now that you have the national championship, like how important is the how much time do you put in team culture and sort of building from where you are? Because I always believe if you stop doing it, if you stop building, you're gonna fall behind, right? So I mean, do you put a lot of emphasis in it for your
Yeah,
program?
the biggest thing that Travis and I tried to do initially was just again the first thing that you have to get right is the culture. So usually when teams are winning 4 and 5 games, it's because some things are missing or lacking in areas that we needed to improve. So the biggest thing was just getting the culture right and getting it going. And then this year we had a big senior class of 12 players that had some special players in it. So
Hmm.
essentially, like yes, they were good players, but they also were our hardest workers. There was 3 players on our team that had started and led our team in minutes where we had a holding mid in 2021 that was sixth on our team in minutes, a center back that was third, and we had a goalie that led the country in minutes played.
Hmm.
And they were a big part of our team having success in 2021 and even some of them in 2022. And then this
Hmm.
last year, they lost some of their spots. And 3 of those people were our best teammates. We had this kind of running joke like, I always tell our team, hey, we have to bring our on the ball quality without shooting ourselves in the foot to just give
Hmm.
teams chances to do things. And then our bench was we got to bring our on the bench quality, which is like good communication, high energy, supportive teammates, that kind of thing. And they were 3 of the best players at it. And so essentially the hard part is going from making a culture not as good to super strong. And then your hope is that once you've made it good and strong, that your seniors teach your freshmen and sophomores how to
Hmm.
go about it and how to do things and
Hmm.
what it means to be an Oli soccer player and just
Hmm.
our day in, day out, and what it means to be a good teammate. And you just kind of hope that once it gets to that point, that you learn from what your standards are. So I'm going to have to still continue to make sure that it goes that way. But we've had some awesome people teach people the right way to do things.
Hmm. Well, you do have some great players. I thought one of your players should have been Player of the Year. Well, he's my personal Player of the Year. Victor Gallman, I thought, is just outstanding.
Yeah, Victor is he is genuinely special. Again, the kid who did win it.
Different level. Like it's hard to explain, but
Yeah,
you watch
the
him play and you're like, this kid's really not at the same level as most
yeah,
good most guys.
I totally agree. And again, the kid who won from Montclair State when you score 34 goals or
Yeah,
whatever it is,
yeah, yeah.
that is an outrageous number. So I don't have like any qualms with it. I do still personally believe that Victor is the best player in Division 3 soccer.
Exactly.
I think that we're going to see in
Yeah,
his COVID year, he's going to find a pretty big time home to get to use
yeah,
his 5th year at. And
yeah,
Travis and I are working on that. A big part of it is Travis, but he's
yeah.
gotten some pretty good interest from like some big time places, and
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
gonna wait and see how that shakes out. But I think that we're gonna see that Victor can play at the highest of levels in
yeah,
Division One soccer and fit right in.
yeah.
So he's going to be doing that. We have a forward, Hakeem Morgan, who is a U23 Costa Rican international.
Costa Rican. He's another one. I just like this play. I like the more, I don't know, center midfielders are really my thing. I really enjoy watching those guys, and that's why I think Victor is your player of the year. But Hakeem Morgan is outstanding as well. I mean, that
Yeah,
kid's.
so I'm excited for what his again. They're going through their processes right now, and then we kind of have like a
Mm-hmm,
third unsung hero in our senior class.
mm-hmm.
His name is Casey McCloskey, and he's the young man who
Yeah.
stepped up big time in the Final
Oh
Four
yeah,
with
yeah,
3 goals and 2 assists.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he's gonna have been a 3-time All Region, and was a Scholar All American 2 years ago. So like he's stepped up and done some things, and
He's
he's getting some interest from places too. So we're gonna have probably 3 players go and use their COVID
yeah,
year at some very good Division One homes, and I hope that they do well because I think that they all have goals and ambitions of being a professional soccer player, and that's very hard to do when you're a
yeah,
Division 3 player. So
yeah,
the kind of analogy that I use with some people is like I kind of feel like Bill Belichick in a way. Like I got just handed this like super talented team, and yes, we did really well. But I believe that this team could have had success under pretty much anybody. To be super transparent with you,
yeah.
and then you take Tom Brady away, and now he might get fired from the Patriots. So now I gotta go out and earn my
Yeah.
money wise and that kind of thing. But I'm super blessed to have gotten to have my first year as a head coach have some special players in it.
um, it, Casey McCloskey, he scored the game winner, right?
Yep, he
That
scored the
I mean,
game in the national.
slotted. I'll tell you what, a lot of poise in that goal, like receiving that ball, keeper coming out, and him putting it back post. I mean, I thought that was a great goal. But
Yeah, I think even in the Final Four, we were. I have no problem saying we were getting dominated through 20 minutes against Washington
hmm
College. We could have been down 2-0 easily,
hmm
but my keeper made a huge save, and they hit the crossbar off of I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah,
And then he cut in and scored a curler off of a block shot
yeah,
where he whipped it out. Like literally, you might not have been able to put a ball with your hand in a better spot for it to go
yeah,
in. And goals change games, and it changed the dynamic of everything. And
yeah,
there was some things that happened that was not down to coaching, where special players did some things. So
yeah,
he had some big moments.
yeah. Um, so no season is perfect, but was this a perfect season for you? What's your sense as to how the season went?
Yeah, I think that it's funny when I was thinking about like potentially like leaving. It was always like a no brainer for me. But if I got offered this job, I was prepared to like leave and accept it on like an interim basis, and just show that I could coach at this level by earning it. And I thought I could do that by winning one of the two Maya championships or getting into the NCAA tournament or winning a game in the NCAA tournament, whatever it might be. I just knew that this team was super talented, and I could. I backed myself a little bit. While I still have worries, insecurities, and all that stuff, I'm still, like I said earlier, I'm a competitor, and I back myself to do a good job. So I knew that I could do something with this team because I felt that pretty much anybody could with what was built here. So like going into the year, I went through like these different phases of like after the first 4 games and we were 1-3, I was like, holy cow, like I might be a terrible head coach. But fortunately, last year, me and Travis, we had a tough start as well when we went to
hmm
Chicago, and we lost to North Park and U Chicago as well,
Yeah,
and we had lost to Wartburg early in the year too. So the funny thing is that we had been in a similar spot before, and then we had still ended up going to a Sweet 16 and had a
hmm
really good year, and we're penalties away from the lead eight. So it's like I
yeah,
just kind of I doubled down and I trusted our process, and we continued to do things that we had been doing. Um, and just during the regular season, we played against Gustavus in the second to last conference game, and we conceded with the last kick of the game in a game that got shortened due to light. And if we would have won that game, we would have won our conference regular season championship outright with a game to go. And because we tied it, we had to go win it on the last day up in Concordia against Concordia Moorhead, and we won it. And that was super cool because I felt like, all right, a little bit of like pressure is off my back. We won one of the two championships, so like
hmm
it allows you to relax a little bit. And then my playoffs come around, and we won the opening or the second round, our opening round, because we had a bye, and then we played against Gustavus in the final, and we won on penalties, which, as we know, is a complete crapshoot. So we did the double, and I was like, all right, like this is pretty cool, because like in my first year, we've done something that we haven't done at St. Olaf. So like
Mm-hmm.
that was awesome, and then the opening round of the NCAA tournament came, and we played Superior, who was really, really good. And there was an early decision in the game that could have changed the dynamic a little bit. And then in the second round, we're playing our crosstown rivals, Carleton,
Yeah.
to go to the Sweet 16. I'm like, man, like if I lose to our crosstown rivals in the second round, in the
Yeah.
second round of the NCAA tournament with the best team we've had here, like, dude, that's probably the game where I felt the most amount of pressure, because if that team didn't go back to a Sweet 16, I would have
Mm-hmm.
felt like, despite 2 championships, I didn't do a good enough job and we
Yeah.
underperformed. So then once we got to that point, I was like, all right, now there's like the most amount of stress that's off of my back, per se. I would also like to say, like, we had a mental performance coach on our staff, Brian Sullivan, who is big time. I talked to him a couple of times a week just about how to be present, and I use some of the analogies of like, we are very good at like talking about our worries, comment or questions, concerns, and little things like that, and then just how do we get back to the moment and being present and trust in our process and that kind of thing. So despite all of these things, we would talk about our worries or concerns as a team, and it's like, all right, so now despite all that, how do we focus on the task at hand? And we would
Yeah.
do that once a week with him, and it was super helpful, because as a first time head coach, like I said, I was worried that we would underperform and not get to the level that we wanted to. And he was really, really big time at helping us. So then, I mean, we beat Carleton and we get to a Sweet 16, and now I'm like, all right, this is pretty cool. And then we end up playing against Eau Claire in the Sweet 16, and
In a
they're
shootout, basically. That was
yeah,
like a run and gun game. I remember watching that.
4-3. And the funny thing about Eau Claire is their head coach Casey Holm was my high school coach for 4 years.
Great
And
guy too. I talked to him last year. I got to reach out again. What a
yeah,
great guy.
he's awesome. And he's one of my best friends as well. He was actually at St. Thomas as an assistant. Is a big reason
Mm-hmm.
why Tyler and I both went back there, and he's a big reason why I'm a college head coach. And we currently coach club together with the oldest age group at our club team. So I was like, this is just so weird that like last year in the Sweet 16, I'm coaching against my twin brother. This year it's like the guy who was like one of my other mentors that is a big part of it. But that was a crazy game where it went up, it was tied, we went up, it was tied, and then we scored super late to advance. And then against U Chicago, that's where it's like, all right, like we've been there 3 times, we have not been able to get past this point. This team has had our number where we've tied, lost in each of the last 3 years. And again, we Victor scored a great free kick from
Mm-hmm.
28, 30 yards, where like, again, that has nothing to do with me being a good coach. I had a special player step up and do something in a good moment, and then we scored off of a long throw. And like, again, just little things like that were
Yeah.
super, super helpful. But once we got to the Final Four, I was like, all right, this season has been awesome. But we always believed that we had the potential to do it all. I don't know if a ton of people who weren't familiar with our team could have believed that, because like, again, you were more familiar with our team, people in our region are a little bit more familiar with our team, but because we had never been able to make the jump on a national stage, I think
Mm-hmm.
that people were probably like, oh, St. Olaf is probably just happy to be here. But when you have the players that we did, we just
Yeah.
knew that we could go toe to toe with anybody. And once we got there, big time players stepped up, and we ended up winning a national championship, obviously. So it
Yeah.
was special. But I think that my athletic director was there, and on the field, I jokingly was hugging him after, and I was like, I jokingly asked, I was like, I want a raise. I want like just a guarantee.
Now's the time, man. Good call. I'm
Yeah.
impressed.
No, no, I was like, I'll take a raise. I'll just take a lot of job security in the future going forward. That I'm going to have a job here for forever, winning the national championship. Um, so that was super funny. But it was just, and then understand that I could be here for the next 30 years, and
Yeah.
this could never happen again. So it could
Yeah.
just be downhill from me too. So that part was funny.
uh, I, I actually last year I said that you guys could have had outs. There were 4 scenarios I think I came up with in terms of who would win the national championship, and for one of them, that I thought you guys were good enough. Like again, Victor Gallman, Hakeem Morgan, those are 2 guys that just sort of stand out. Like you can't help but notice them on the field, and I always thought, man, you got such a good team. You just, at some point in the tournament, like the break's got to go your way, the ball has to bounce the right way. Nobody cruises through, and I thought you guys. And I think that sort of happened this year. Um, the things went your way, and I think that was how it led to that path to the tournament final. But
I totally agree. Like you always need some big
you
bounces
need
to go your
it has
way.
nothing to do. It has nothing to do with quality of either team. It's just you need something to go your way. Washington College, right? They have to hit the crossbar.
Hmm.
If they don't hit the crossbar and that goes in, totally different dynamic game. Instead, it hits the crossbar, gives you some life. Lo and
Hmm.
behold,
So,
changes the dynamic.
totally agree with you. So like it's got to be a perfect storm of everything
Yeah,
to go your way.
yeah,
Unfortunately, like we had a lot of the small breaks go our way, and we had players step up and score goals from like not the most like high opportune spots. To be super transparent, like again, we don't get to a Final Four unless Victor Gallman scores a 28-yard free
yeah.
kick, and there's only people in college soccer that
Can
can do
do
that.
that. That
And
yeah,
then against Washington College, Casey's goal
yeah,
from like no angle, and then against Hakeem Morgan's goal where he finishes from like 7 yards off the end line where the goalie tips it off
yeah,
the upper right side of the post as well.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
we had big time people step up in big time moments, and
yeah.
Shea Bechtel is like another guy who's gonna
Oh, he
probably
was another one.
he's
He's
gonna
another.
rewrite a
Love
record
him.
book. Yep, he's gonna rewrite
Yeah,
a record book at St. Olaf where
yeah,
he's finished with the most goals, most assists, most points, most everything, and he's been doing it consistently for us since day one. And he's gonna have a bigger role next year. But he's actually going to be a three-time captain for us. But, like we have 4 or 5 guys that can step up and do special things at any given moment. So it's where it was nice that they all stepped up and did it in those
yeah,
moments to make it
yeah,
happen.
yeah. And you need them all. That's the thing, right? You need them all to step up at the same time. So if you get one guy but not the other, and just change. I didn't realize Shea Bechtel was a junior, so you got him conceivably 2 more years if he were to. I don't know if that's possible at St. Olaf to stay an extra year, but for his
Shea
COVID
just
year.
will end up having his 1 year of eligibility left
Oh,
after this one.
yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird seeing everything kind of go back to this year where people will still have medical red shirts years, which is like
Yeah, yeah, it's still trying to figure out a
the
little.
COVID year has just completely changed the dynamic of everything. It's like some places will list their COVID year people this year as
Yeah,
seniors that are juniors, so that because they still have the extra year, and
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how things kind of revert back to
yeah,
normal.
yeah. So I'm curious what. I mean, because you've been on the inside of this team that's sort of formed over the year, right? Like, you saw them as freshmen, sophomore, junior, and the seniors stepping up and all that stuff. Like, was there anything that really surprised you about this team now that you're looking at it from a head coach's perspective?
Um, not not really. It's just we have had so much consistency and continuity in the team and group where it was very senior heavy and senior laden, and they all stepped up and did things in our big time moments where like you know we started out the year 1-3 like I said, but that didn't shell shock them because it had happened to us the year before, and we still managed to go to a Sweet 16 and lose in penalty kicks where like I said, anything can
Yeah.
happen in those moments. So we had pretty much experienced a ton of stuff, even when a majority of them were sophomores in 2021 when we went to U Chicago and we lost to North Park. We lost 1-0 in the like 87th minute where we had a free kick in our defensive third, and our first team all region center back slipped and sliced it up the middle of the field. And 2 passes later, in 8 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
we conceded. And it's like that's not a moment I totally was sensing danger from. So like we were always close and knocking on the door, and it's just different when your team is a majority of seniors
Yeah.
because they know that like this is kind of like our last chance to go do it. Like we knew that some of the big time players in our team were going to try to use their COVID year elsewhere. We were
Mm-hmm.
Travis and myself were helping them get ready to do those things, and it's just different when you kind of feel like your back's up against the wall and this is do or die time. And
Mm-hmm.
so we went down a goal against U Chicago in the Elite Eight, and they still
Yeah.
stepped up in the second half, and we did way better. I would still say that the U Chicago game we were lucky to get through because I don't think that was a good performance from us. But we got again goals in moments where not many goals are scored from. So it was
That was a
fortunate.
great game. I liked that game a lot. The
It
game
was
against
it was it was a
Chicago, I
really
thought
good
was
game.
really good.
And then again, like we touched on against Washington College, like 25 minutes. If we could have gone down, it could have been completely different. But we
Yeah.
went up, and it was fortunate. But then against Amherst, we go down 1-0, and again we were just down 1-0 against U Chicago. Our guys had kind of been in those moments, and instead of them worrying, they just kind of rallied. This year was special for like a handful of different reasons, but there was only one team that that shut us out this year, and it was Travis at Kenyon when we went there and we lost 2-0. And it's like there's a guy who's got the script to make it tough on us. It's
Yeah.
him.
They wrote
So
it ahead of season and be like, "Oh, you're going to lose against your former head coach,"
yeah,
and be
so
blanked.
he's got those brain nerds. But like again, we knew that we could score goals, so we didn't get phased even if we did go down 1-0 because people could
Yeah,
step
you
up
can.
and do those kinds of things. But um, just the maturity and the
Yeah,
belief that our upperclassmen had. It's different when you get kind of carried by your seniors.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you have a couple of outliers in terms of games, like you know, I call them outliers, like Bethel, Luther, right? St. Mary's, and then that Wisconsin Superior. But I mean, you're looking at 2, 3 goals a game easily, like that you're just netting. And knowing that, right? Like if you get into a routine, you kind of know, hey, we got goals on our side. That's a really good spot to be in, right? Like we know we could put the ball in the back of the net. That's a lot of teams wish they could do that.
Yeah,
Um,
no, like that's a big thing for us. Like each of the last 2 years before this year, we came in averaging right around 2.9 or 3 goals a
yeah,
game. And again, we score some lopsided numbers on a few
yeah,
teams.
yeah,
We'll,
yeah.
we'll blow the numbers a little bit, but we still do that playing. And I think the MIAC is one of the more underrated
Mm-hmm.
conferences in college soccer. Just because again, that Midwest, it's very hard for other teams to go and make runs because our pods are always centered around going through
Mm-hmm.
Chicago, either U Chicago or North
Mm-hmm.
Park. It's a little bit different versus out east where you can have three teams from the same conference end up in a
Mm-hmm.
different quarter of the bracket. So there's always a little bit just not easier pass because there's way more teams there. So I get it, but like from the Midwest, there's always only one team typically that can
Mm-hmm.
make it through and get out. So it just changes the dynamic for us a little bit in terms of that. But like again, the MIAC is I think a very strong conference. Again, there's always going to be some better ones, but like even last year, you got to see like a couple of teams from Wisconsin are also in the coast to coast, and now the WIAC is going to be formed where there's good schools in Eau Claire and Platteville where they're hovering and in the national rankings too. So it's just a weird little dynamic with that part of it. But it was yeah.
Um, on the flip side, what was the challenge for you? Was it just the newness of it all? Newness, meaning you as your newness as being a head coach, or was there something going on in the season that you thought this is a big deal?
Um, I mean, honestly, like the biggest challenge was the first four games where we had the start that we did, but then like everything kind of just started to go our way a little bit. Like we finished the year on a 22 game unbeaten streak.
Mm-hmm.
And when you feel like you don't lose a game for almost 2.5, 3 months, like it's tough to just not feel like everything is going your way. Obviously, you'll experience a little bit of adversity. Like, Hakeem Morgan missed 4 games for us because he went and was with the U23
Yeah,
Costa Rican
yeah, yeah.
national.
I remember that was a great. I mean, you couldn't say no to that, right? Like,
No, there's no way you can say
yeah,
no to that. And so he did that, and we're a team that you can take one of our best players out of it, and we can go out and still play against some very big time places, and just feel like you're not gonna totally miss a beat. So we missed him for 4 games, and we went out and we still did well, but fortunately, like we avoided a lot of injury crisis. Our biggest injury
yeah.
concern this year was probably we had a freshman, Robbie Buzakovic, who I think is one of the better holding mids in the country in terms of like he's got an elite passing range and he's so good on the ball. He missed 7, 8 games with a groin injury and an infection, but outside
Mm-hmm.
of that, like we were pretty healthy this year, and we've
Mm-hmm.
honestly we've avoided injuries a lot of the last 3 years. So that part was pretty good. So again, you got to have little things like that go your way. Like Victor didn't miss any games, Casey didn't miss any games,
Yeah.
Shea didn't miss any games. It was super helpful that we
Yeah.
just had a lot of continuity in the squad.
Yeah. You also have a deep roster, which I think is helpful in that injury department, right? Like I
Yeah,
think you can rotate guys out. Hey, I'm not going to give you a full 90 this game. You're going to play 60. I'm making it up, but play
yeah,
60. We got this in the bag. You're going to rest. And I think
yeah.
that over the longer term helps.
Yeah, we had different people step up this year in a wide variety of different ways. We had a sixth year senior because he was at a medical redshirt year and a COVID year. But or it might have been fifth, I forget. But essentially, it was his last year here, and he started like 10 of the games that he played in, and then had a smaller role as the year went on. We had another senior, Liam Vance, who
Hmm.
started a handful of games for us as a left center back, and then somebody else stepped up in that spot. So
Yeah.
it was very nice
Yeah.
that we had different players step up. And I think this year we finished with like 22 or 23 people scored a goal for us on our 31
Yeah.
person
Yeah.
roster.
That's
So like,
huge. That's huge, right? Like if you get production and you get guys who can come off the bench, I talk to coaches who say they might have 13 guys that they can go to for their 11. That's hard, right? That's a lot of wear and tear on bodies. But if you do have 23 guys who can come in, put the ball in the back of the net, or step into spots, I mean that's a whole other. You're playing with two teams, right? Like effectively. So, um, what what sort of plans do you have for the spring now, aside from the nonstop celebrations? Right, you're national champions for a whole. Now it's what 11 months, 10 months left. Like what are your plans for the spring? Especially as you say, you got a lot of guys, a lot of seniors, and trying to figure that all out.
yeah, it's funny. Like I think that we have a smaller to a more normal sized roster here. We usually are at right around 30 people. This year we were at 31. So again, we're losing 12, probably 11. I think only one player from that class is going to come back and use their COVID year here,
Mm-hmm.
Clemente, our coach Puig. Um, and he's been like a consistent starter for the last 3 years. But when you lose that many people, it's a big transition period. So I'm excited for this spring to have the guys get to go out and compete a little bit more, because to be super transparent, like nobody here is ever guaranteed a starting spot. Like I told the guys, and Travis has told the guys, like everything we do here is based on merit. So that's where we had some people start for 3 years and then maybe they lost their spot, or started for 2 years and then they lost their spot. We'll play whoever we think gives us the best chance to win or is the most deserving of
Mm-hmm.
it. But there's some people where it's very hard to take their spot. It's hard to take Casey McCloskey, Victor Gallman, Akeem Morgan's spot. And those guys are probably going to play 90 minutes a game, barring something happening. So now
Yeah.
it's like there's there's a lot of minutes that are going to be opening up in this team, and now it's going to be who wants to step up, put in the work, and show that you're the next person who could help us make a run in the NCAA tournament, and you can be a big time player for us. So I'm very excited to get to see the guys compete and see who's ready to step up and show that they deserve more and they have earned more in terms of having a bigger role. So that part is nice, and then the big part is just is recruiting. I think that arguably the most important part of college soccer is recruiting. You can do whatever you want as a coach or manager. Like this year, I could have played a 4-3-3 instead of a 3-5-2 or a different shape, and we probably still would have had a ton of success because we had better players than other people,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the most important part of college soccer and winning. So I got to make sure that I try to go out and do that. Like from an interesting perspective, it's not like winning the national championship here will massively change like our recruiting efforts. It's not like, oh, because St. Olaf won a national championship, I'm now going to be talking to them too, as well as the other NESCACs. Like they're still in a
Mm.
different tier than us academically.
Yeah.
Or, we're still located in Northfield, Minnesota, where not many people want to come up to have our winters. So, people have asked me that question.
Nothing wrong with the Minnesota winters. Come on.
No,
Just
not
really cold. You just got to stay inside the whole
no,
time.
exactly. So, it's not like where you're a Division One school and you're in a Power Five conference and you win the national championship, and now it helps you have recruiting sway over some of the other places. It can help marginally, or if I send an email, I'll get maybe initial response because I'll say, "Hey, like we're the reigning national champs. Please respond
Yeah.
to me." Little things like that, but it's just making sure that this next class, along with some of the other people that we brought in, they need to be ready to help make the jump. Where we've been really good the last 3 years, and I want to make sure that now we're ready to be good for the next 7 years. I
Mm-hmm.
think the hard part is, going from bad to good and then good to great. And now that we're kind of near the top of the mountain, I want to make sure that we stay near the top
Stay
of the
there.
mountain.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
some of our
That's the test of time, right? Like
exactly. Some of
you
our
don't want
players
to
are
be
like,
that flash of the pan. You want to be the perennial. We're here, right? Like it's
yeah,
just. I think
and
that's a
you need some special players to go out and
yeah.
do what we did, like I said. So Victor Gallman's, Nakeem Morgan's, and Case McCloskey's, they don't grow on trees. To be like super transparent with you, like I'm not going to be banking on us going to a national championship again next year. Obviously, everybody wants to, and like that's the pinnacle of it all.
Yeah.
But it's just about making sure that you get teams that are good enough and strong enough, and hopefully you can get to a second weekend. And then once you get there, pretty much anything can happen. But it's just we got to try to reload a little bit and have some people make sure that just because we won it last year doesn't mean that we're entitled to anything next year. We have to go
Anything.
back out and earn everything all over again
Yeah.
with an even bigger target on our back. So we need
Yeah.
people to invest in themselves and work hard for the next now
Yeah.
9 months to make sure we are ready come September 1st or August
Yeah.
31st, whatever the first day of the
Whatever
season
it
is.
is. Hey, has your email box exploded after winning the national championship more so than it probably normally does from a recruiting perspective? When you won, did you notice an uptick in guys reaching out like, "Hey, I'm some player and wherever," and Northfield,
Yeah,
Minnesota sounds
honestly,
real appealing right about now.
there's been a small uptick in like
Hmm.
some people like transparently like they'll just Google like if they know they're a Division
Yeah,
three guy, it's like hey maybe I'm just gonna Google like Division 3 college soccer and see
yeah.
what the
Come
rankings
up
are.
with my web page, my YouTube channel. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. So there's been a tiny amount of interest, but
Hmm.
more often than not, like it's had a small impact, I would say, but I don't think it's
Yeah,
been the biggest. But I mean, if you back yourself to be a good recruiter, I hope that I learned from one of the best recruiters in Travis, where hopefully I can use that to help. But the biggest part of like why I think we've gotten good and why we've been good is we didn't talk about like winning a national championship.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I
You
think
don't
this
want to.
year on one hand. I think I could count on one hand the amount of times I said the words national championship. I opened up
Hmm.
with like one of our preseason meetings, like, look, you guys, in the past we haven't talked about it, and I'm not going to be the one who continues to talk about it. Make no mistake, we have everything we need in this room to win a national championship, but you don't win it by talking about it. That happens by winning every single day and having a process that is day in, day out is going to be what gets you there. And the thing that I try to say to our team is like, look, you guys, if our competitiveness matches our on-ball quality, we can play with and we can beat anybody in the country. And that was kind of like my
Yeah,
way of saying like we can do this kind of thing, but
yeah, yeah,
you got to go day by day and you got to
yeah.
go, yeah,
Yeah,
just
there's
trust your
no
body.
shortcuts, right? Like, let's be real. There's no, like I said, you need all of those things in a tournament to line up your way, right? You need a planetary alignment. You need to hit the power ball. You need all of this stuff to just sort of come out just right to help you win the national championship. But you also need all of this hard work all beforehand, and no one's giving it to you, and you need to win it every day, every day, every day. Because otherwise, you're
Absolutely.
not going to win. Like, I don't care. You're just not going to win. You just don't have the fortitude. You don't have the what have you. So,
Well, I totally agree. And the word that I try to use the most with our guys this year is earning. I was trying to
yeah,
be like you guys. We're all about earning everything. So once we got to the point where we were competing for championships in the MIAC tournament, it was like, all right, guys, like a win today can help us earn a MIAC regular season title. So like
yeah,
that's a big deal for us. And then once we got to the NCAA tournament, it was about like how can we earn another week together? How can we earn another
yeah,
24 meaningful hours together? And then the cool thing was like going to the national championship. I was like, look, you guys, like we've earned all of the time together that we possibly can. So all that's left for us to now is like go out and earn a national championship, and I believe in us to go out there and be able to go do that. The
hmm
funny thing is like I made a little Division 3 bracket on a printout this year, and I haven't always done it, but
I
like
didn't do that.
I love Division 3 soccer,
I,
so like
did, I didn't.
I built one out, and I didn't share it with like anybody. It wasn't online. I just wrote it out in pen, and like I did. I picked us to go out and win it all, and I shared it with the guys when we were like on our run. I was like, you guys might not know it, but like I promise you, I got genuine belief in us to be able to go out and do this. And it's not for show, and again, like it's easy to write it out and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
But yeah, it was that part was pretty cool.
Should frame that bracket, man. Get it, frame it, or send it to me. I'll hang it up. Like that would be cool.
No,
Um,
it was cool. One of my favorite Christmas presents, honestly, my girlfriend, she screen printed out like the bracket, and then she she couldn't get it where it had all the scores in, so she went in and put in the scores from every single game in the tournament, and she highlighted our wins in gold, and she framed it. So now I got a nice little bracket of our run that's gonna be up in my office once I find a
that's
place to go
outstanding.
hang it up. So,
Outstanding girlfriend, a keeper.
outstanding girlfriend keeper.
Yeah. She knows, she understands like where how your brain ticks. Like, oh, soccer gift. Oh, thank you. I'm so very happy. Like,
Absolutely.
um, lastly, and I'll face, I'm a big fan of Coach Ruben Burke and Connecticut College. When they won the national championship, I thought they played spectacular soccer. Last year, something was awry. This year, they're back to playing great soccer. Chicago, flawless last year when they won the national championship. This year, from the get go, there was something that I just didn't get the vibe that they were on that path, right? Like, what kind of goals, what's sort of the setup for you for the fall to, I don't want to say prevent that, right? Like sometimes, but how do you get back to that feeling like you have to earn everything every day? Make sense?
Yeah, yeah, no, and so I used the word process, but we had the same kind of like game day goals for our season. So it used to be three, and it slowly started to evolve into five. The first one for us was score the first goal, because as you know in soccer, when you're one of the better teams and you go down, now teams start to sit a little bit deeper against you. And when teams are organized with 9, 10 people behind the ball, I don't care who you are, it is so tough to play through an organized low block. So we knew that if we could try to go up in a majority of our games, it would prevent teams from, sitting a little bit deeper. So like that part is super helpful for us. And then the second part was win the 5 to 7 minute stretches that are important. And we refer to those as the 5 to 7 minutes to start games, to end halves, to start halves, to end halves, and then the 5 to 7 minutes after goals. And they're like, all right, well, yeah, dude, you're now talking about 30, 35 minutes, but that's when a majority of goals are scored. So if we can take pride in winning the start of halves, the end of halves, and then when there's goals, which is when there's the most energy, intensity in
Yeah,
games. And I think that we got to see that worked out really well for us where, we scored at the end of the Chicago game. We scored at the end of the Eau Claire game.
yeah,
We scored in the first 2 minutes of overtime against Amherst. Like,
yeah.
those were big moments for us. And then
That's
the
a good
other three
point.
are bring our on the ball quality without gifting the other team something or shooting ourselves in the foot. And we said that because we believe that your process that it leads to the most sustainable results is being able to play and dictate the game on the ball while also
Mm,
defending and pressing as high up the field as possible.
yeah,
So we know that if we can defend as high up the field every single time, we can make sure that when they play, it's in their half. And if we back ourselves to be able to play and
yeah.
effectively build, we now know a majority of the game is going to be played in their half of the field,
At
which
the
is again,
field, yeah,
it's going to lead to more
yeah,
sustainable results. And then winning the set piece battle, that is the most important part of college soccer. It doesn't
yeah,
matter if you can play way better than somebody else. If you don't win the 18-yard boxes on set pieces, you're not going to go out and win the game.
yeah.
And then, again, against Eau Claire, we scored off of 2 corner kicks and 2 penalty kicks. Against Chicago, we scored off of a free kick and a long throw in. Against Amherst, we defended like however many long throw-ins, free kicks, corner kicks. Their center back led their team in shots with like 6. Like
Yeah,
we were bending but not breaking, and so we
yeah,
took
yeah.
pride in this.
Especially that first half.
Mhm.
That's where I was like, oh, they're in trouble. Like I thought you guys were nervous and you weren't sort of playing what I expected. But yeah, that first half, I thought you guys were just bending, 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 and how, yeah. But anyhow, sorry to
Absolutely,
interrupt.
no, totally agree with you. And the other part is just is out competing. It's a tough
Hmm.
thing to like quantify numerically what it means, but when you see somebody competing and winning their battles, you know it when you see it. So those were
Yeah,
kind of our 5 big points. And if we knew that we won a majority of those 5 things, we could end up leaving the game with a result that was good for us. And once
yeah,
we
yeah.
figured those kind of moments out, we just that helped us keep stride. So instead of just like going into the game, everybody always wants to win it, but it's like, how are you going to win it? We found that that was kind of our recipe to going out
Yeah.
and doing that. So like that's my long-winded way of saying like against Washington College in the Final Four, we got massively like dominated in terms of on the ball stuff.
Yeah.
So that's going to happen against
They,
good teams. But
yeah.
fortunately in that game, we did well in the other four areas that we talked about. But I do think that in terms of Division III soccer, I think that we try to play. Maybe sometimes that's to a fault, and Chicago could have
Yeah.
punished us for us a couple times. We got lucky where my middle center back made like a crazy 30-yard recovery where he blocked a shot from 12
Yeah.
yards away. Little things like that went our way, but I do believe that your process in terms of how you play with your identity on ball and defensively helps get the most results. And I think you look last year, Chicago was they're still this year brilliant on the ball. Last year they were brilliant on the ball with special center backs, and I think that's
Yeah.
why they went undefeated to winning a national
Yeah.
championship.
I
And
agree.
2 years ago, they again are one of the better teams in the country on the
Yeah.
ball. So like I think that you're now getting to see that you get rewarded a little bit more for
Yeah.
having a process
Yeah.
that can
That
help
is a.
you.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but that is a great point because it's true. I think as we get more sophisticated as soccer players become more sophisticated, I will say teams that look to play the ball, and I throw Washington College in that same category. I throw Washington and Lee in that same category. Teams that play get rewarded more than in the past. Whereas I think in the past, if you went up against a team that was full throttle Route One and was just going to beat you silly, they got rewarded more for that type of play, which is what always drove me nuts. And now I think that might be, again, as players get more sophisticated, I think that's happening more and more, much to my happiness. Believe me, like it's on. It makes me. I love seeing you guys win. Really, Chicago last year, Connecticut. To me, when I see a soccer team win, as I would define a soccer team, right, and what I like to see, it makes me feel good, right, and
No,
invariably.
I totally agree with you. And again, it's not to say that one way is better than the other
But
because different
agreed,
people have
agreed.
different ways
Yeah,
to do, and some are highly successful doing. And then there's teams that are good at both, and that's like a super strong point
yeah,
to be at. I think that Amherst is one of the teams that is really good at both. They can beat you in a
yeah,
variety of different ways, where they
yeah,
can dominate you on the ball and they can dominate you from a physical competitive standpoint.
yeah,
And
yep,
they're one of the best teams in the country in the first half. And so like
yeah,
you touched on it, like against Amherst, I totally agree. The one of my big talking points with the guys is like, look, you guys, if we can get through the first 25 minutes in the first half
minutes.
in a
Yeah,
in a decent point, and
hmm
that will go a long way in the game. And they still ended
yeah,
up going up first. But trust me, I totally agree with you. We were up against it, and they started off the
yeah,
game in a variation of a 3-5-2, and it matched up a little bit better for us. And then they went man for man all over the field with us, and they were just out competing us everywhere.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
so good at that, and that's a big reason why Justin has been to like 15 straight Sweet 16s. Like I don't think that
yeah.
anything like this will ever happen
No,
again.
no.
So
I
he's a brilliant head coach at what he
yeah,
does. He's good at doing it in a variety of different ways, which is impressive that you can do it in two ways because it's hard to be really good at it in just one. So the fact that they can do
hmm
it in both is impressive. But it's just want to make sure that I gave them their
yeah,
props because again there was little things in that game too that had to go our way, which
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah. Totally, totally. Um, Look, love him, hate him, doesn't matter, right? What what Coach Serpone has done at Amherst is nothing short of remarkable, right? He reminds me of Dan Wagner at Franklin and Marshall, right? He makes it to the NCAA. Like it's almost like foregone conclusion that they're going to get to at least to the Sweet 16.
totally
Foregone
agree.
conclusion. Start
Me
of
and
the
Travis
season. Like, how do you
conversation.
do that?
Yeah, me and Travis are having this
Yeah.
conversation. It's not like take away. We think that it's harder to get to the Final Four than it is to win the Final Four. Obviously, the hardest thing to do is win a national championship for
Right.
sure, 'cause you win all six. But like to get to that point as frequently and consistently as some teams do, it is so impressive because it is again, it's hard to win any game, but it's. I have so much respect for teams that can go out there and do it on a consistent basis. And
Basis.
fortunately,
Yeah.
we're now one of 5 teams in the last 3 years that have gone to 3 straight Sweet 16s. So the
Yeah.
fact that there are people who do it every year, though, too,
Every
or
year. Yeah.
9 times out of 10, it is
Like,
so impressive.
yeah, yeah. And how do you do that? How do you get the guys in? How do you get them bought in? Like, there's so much that goes into that formula where you're like, look, you just got to tip your hat. Like, again, and it has nothing to do with the soccer. You can play whatever way you want, but if you don't have all the other pieces aligned under the right coach with the right team culture and the spirit and all that kind of stuff, you're not getting anywhere. Like, it doesn't
Totally.
matter. You're not getting anywhere.
You got to have
So,
the players. You got to have the
yep.
buy-in. If they don't believe
Yeah,
in it,
yeah. Oh, that's it. If they have to believe from the get go that it's theirs to lose, right? And it's almost like that's their single minded approach. Otherwise, the team falls apart at some
yeah,
point. So,
totally agree. And I think that even now with our generation, just not being soft because that's not the right word. Like I will tell you, like as a player, I responded a little bit better to like not softer coaching, but like I needed to know that my coach loved me, cared about me,
yeah,
believed
yeah, yeah.
for him.
Agreed.
Then when he holds me to a high standard, I know this guy's holding me to a high standard because I'm not doing what's expected of me, and he wants me to be
Yeah,
better and do more. So you can still hold
yeah,
all of that stuff, but like you just got to make sure that the guys know that you love them and care about them, and then when
yeah.
they know that, they will jump through hoops, they will run through
Hoops. Yep.
walls, they will say how high when you ask them to jump, like.
Yeah.
So that's where, as long as the guys believe in what you're doing and they believe in your process, like there's not truly one that will definitely lead to more success than another. It's just about whatever you think your best vision and belief is. But it's just been interesting to see over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
It's been a slightly different part of it.
I always say the difference very clearly, and I watch it and talking to coaches, like what you just said. When I was playing, you just got pounded. Like it wasn't. There was no hugs. Hugs? What? Like you didn't do something right. You got chewed out. You do something well. That's what you were supposed to do. And there was no
No,
expectation. Like it was, yeah, anyhow. But get all teary eyed and nostalgic for the way things were back then. But I didn't win a national championship, so it clearly.
it's funny. I have like this little other extra story, and I didn't share it with the guys until like this Christmas. But when I transferred to St. Thomas, and I watched my brother lose in a Final Four to Tufts 2-1 at Roanoke, which is the same place where we went and won it. So it was like kind of
Hmm.
like a weird experience where I went and watched him play there in 2016, and then I was back there later coaching. But like
Right.
simple thing, like we go to like the local mall and there's always like a little thing where you can write like your Santa wish list or you see
Mm.
Santa, and I was like all I want for Christmas is a national championship, and then we lost in the final, we lost in the lead eight, and I was like, well, Santa definitely didn't give me what I wanted.
Yeah. Damn him. He's not getting cookies.
No, and then funny enough, like it ends up happening seven years
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
That's where like again, I believe that everything happens for a reason, and it's easier to say that because we all face adversity and we're fighting different battles that people don't know about, but like
Yeah. Yeah.
everything had to happen for me to end up exactly where I was. And it was, I had to go to East Illinois to transfer to St. Thomas. And then because I was at St. Thomas, we played against Travis Wall's team that he coached at collegiately. And because of that, he then ran into my twin brother at a national
Yeah.
recruiting. And then because of that, I ended up on staff at
Yeah.
St. Olaf. And then, I
Yeah.
went going to be the head coach at UW Stout. And I was there for 7 weeks. And then
Yeah.
he leaves. And then I come back to St. Olaf. And now I'm at a place where I could be at for the rest of my coaching life and be happy and be fulfilled. It's kind of crazy that like all of these little things happened, which lead to like the ultimate culmination of everything. So I'm lucky, I'm thankful, I'm blessed. It's cool that Travis is one of my best friends. He was one of our
Yeah.
biggest supporters. He wants us to see us do well. Where he traveled to our games. It's I don't know. It's all cool how it adds up to what it did. My twin brother,
Yeah.
is coach in our conference, is
Yeah.
at all of our games, and he's screaming from the sidelines in the
Yeah.
stands, like helping organize my players, like, "Hey, please
Yeah.
be here." Little things like that. It
Yeah.
takes a village. I've got a big time
Yeah.
assistant coach, Matthew Gibbons, who helped me out in his first year as an assistant coach. My mental
Hmm.
performance coach, Brian Sullivan, is I think a big reason why we were able to make the jump that we did from two straight Sweet 16s to go to where
Hmm.
we did. I had an athletic director that believed in me as a first time head coach to give me what I believe to be one of the best teams in the country. And unfortunately, the guys made sure I couldn't mess it up. So I appreciate them. It's
Hmm.
kind of cool that it takes a village, and I'm
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
blessed.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, that is. I not to get all spiritual, but I am one that there's no coincidences in life. You just don't see it for what it is when it happens, right? And it's usually gratification delayed, and not your time. So it's somebody else's time, right? Like, yeah, you're not going to get it 7 years ago, but I'll get you one, right? Like, so anyhow, I'll get all weird on that and get all goosebumpy, and I don't, anyhow. Hey, Coach, this is fantastic. Really, really did enjoy talking with you. Really super excited for you guys because I've been a fan for a few years now. Think the world of you guys and think the world of Travis and what he's done. And like I said, I'll be speaking to him again soon. But really, really appreciative that you took the time out of your day.
Thank you so much for having me. Like I said earlier, what you do for Division Three soccer is unparalleled, and it's so nice that you shine a light on an area that doesn't get much light shown on it. So I appreciate everything that you do for us, and like I said, I've gotten to watch your show for a while, so it's very cool that I've now been able to come and be on it. So I appreciate you for having me on and everything that you've done. Thank you very much for a special interview.
Thank you. I noticed that you're sweating, by the way. So my interview was hard hitting and no, yeah, thank you for the kind words. Really, really, really do appreciate it. I just enjoy it. It's great. This to me is worth it right there. It does whatever happens and whatever all this stuff. Just being able to talk about the game and things that intrigue me is well worth the effort. So, but thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, Coach. Fantastic.